Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to be taking a look at Dragon Trick, which is one of the many games you can play in the Book of Dragons, which is a card game system that's colorblind friendly, language independent, and you can play more than 18 games from more than 16 designers. Dragon Trick is a 2 to 4 player trick-taking game where you'll be using some simultaneous card playing to win the tricks, and essentially we're all scavengers trying to look at the war of dragons above us, predict what dragons we think are going to win, and then rush under them to win their spoils. Now we're going to be doing a rule school, so I'm going to teach you how to set up and play the game so that you don't have to read the rules, so let's get started. Dragon Trick is a 2 to 4 player trick-taking game where you'll be simultaneously playing cards face down and then resolving tricks based upon the strongest dragon all the way to the weakest dragon, which is randomly set up at the beginning of the game. Even though the strongest card gets to collect all the cards as tricks, the weakest card gets to change any 2 adjacent cards in the strength rank, and the ones on the end are actually adjacent to each other. But watch out, because if too many people try to play the same card, they'll nullify and will not be able to win this trick, and someone with a small card will be able to win the trick. Play 3 full rounds, the one who has won the most total tricks is the winner. To set up, first, if you're playing a 4-player game, take all 4 Shadow Dragons and all 4 Forest Dragons and remove them from the game completely. Next, you're going to separate out one of each of the dragon types. Again, if you're playing with a 4-player game, there'll only be 8 of them. But if you're playing a 2 or 3-player game, you'll still be using the Forest and Shadow Dragons, so they'll have a total of 10 cards, one of each dragon type. You'll take those cards and shuffle them and put them in one straight row as we see here. We're playing the 4-player game, so there'll be 8 cards. If you're playing a 2 or 3-player game, there'll be 10 cards in one row. You want to make sure that people can see this row and possibly get to it to change it, but you don't want it in the middle of the table where you'll be playing tricks during the game. This helps set the initial rank of the cards. The left one is the most powerful, going all the way down to here, and the right is the least powerful for the beginning of the game, and of course this is going to be random since you shuffled these cards. Next, take all the remaining cards, shuffle them up, and deal them out equally to each of the players. Keep in mind this is going to be your hand, which will not be seen by other players, but you'll keep secret to yourself. The object of the game is to win the most tricks over 3 rounds of play. The game is played over 3 rounds. Each round will have a certain amount of tricks depending on the amount of players that are in the game, and each trick, each player will be playing 1 card, trying to win the trick until everyone has run out of cards. That will be the end of the round, and we'll be playing 3 of those. To start the round, everybody will play 1 card face down from their hand. Then the cards are revealed. A few things are going to happen. Number 1, if any of the cards match each other, regardless of how many are there, they nullify each other. So even though this is the strongest one on rank, because this is the strongest all the way down to the weakest, they nullify each other and they cannot win, which means the next strongest one between these 2 is the Sun Dragon. So this dragon would win the trick. The weakest dragon gets to move any 2 of these cards that are adjacent to each other and swap them. So for example, this lowest player might swap these 2 like this. However, the 2 ends are adjacent, so instead of swapping like that, they could actually swap just like this. Then the player who won would take all these cards and place them in front of them, collect them as trick piles, so we know how many tricks they've collected off to the side in front of themselves. This would continue until players are out of cards, but let's show you a few more examples. Let's say the trick looked like this. All these 3 platinum dragons match, so this one is actually the highest and the lowest. So this player will be able to collect the trick, and they'll be able to swap out any 2 adjacent cards, just as we saw before. If all cards played in the trick have a match, then no one wins this trick, so no one can collect it, and no one is the lowest, so no one can adjust the ranks. These cards just get placed off to the side, out of the round, in front of nobody. After all the cards have been played, it's the end of the round. Players will count how many tricks they've collected and keep track of this with paper and pen that is not supplied with the game. After everyone's written their score down, you'll shuffle up all the cards played in the tricks and deal them out evenly, just like you did at the beginning of this round, keeping in mind you're never shuffling in any of the cards that may have been removed at the beginning of the game, and you're not changing the ranking dragons at all. And whoever has the most tricks at the end of 3 rounds is the winner. There's also a variant called the Trickier Variant, and in this one, somebody wins the trick. The lowest card, like normal, like in this case, these two would cancel each other out. This is the highest would win the trick, and this is the lowest card on the right. Instead of just moving any card adjacent one, they would then move a card of their choice adjacent the number of cards that were won in the trick. If cards were canceled, they do not count. So in this case, this lowest player would be able to move any card 2 spots in any direction, keeping in mind that the front and the back are still adjacent. And so if a trick looked like this, there's 4 different cards. This player that played the lowest card would actually get to move any of these dragons 4 spaces in any one direction. Well, I hope I helped you dive right into Dragon Trick and get to the fun quicker than you normally would have if you needed to read the rules yourself. Now, if you have more questions, I've placed a link below me in the description of this video. That's the best place to ask those questions because I'll get notified, but so will the publisher, and sometimes the designers might even chime in as well.